I am thrilled to be here today. As Emily said, I'm a journalist and I am the founder of Expedite, which is a newsletter about restaurant technology and the future of hospitality. I love writing and talking to creatives in the restaurant business. I think there is no better local business. And I'm thrilled to be talking to chef, restaurateur, entrepreneur Roy Choi today as part of this keynote address. Roy, welcome.
Hello, how you doing? Can you see me?
I can see you great. Can you
All
see
right.
me?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. So our audience might know you as the Kogi truck guy, the chef show guy, the guy from Local and Watts, the guy who opened Best Friend in Vegas recently, the guy who inspired the movie Chef. I'm probably missing some. What's
That's a
going
lot
on?
of
What are
guys.
you up
That's a lot of
to?
guys.
It's a lot of guys. Yeah.
There's a lot of guys on here,
What are you
man.
doing?
I don't know. Hanging out with these guys right now. Right now, I'm here. I'm really excited to be here. Hopefully I can, share some insight and everything I've been through as an entrepreneur and as a small business owner. And I'm ready to answer any questions you got for me.
Amazing. Well, just tell me what you have going on right now. Like what's on your plate?
Um, in general or for
Yeah.
breakfast? Oh, in
No.
general,
Oh,
right?
well, I'm actually, did you have breakfast?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
This
yeah, it's early on the West Coast.
um, in general, what do I got? I mean, you named a lot of it. All those things that you named are still in existence.
Hmm.
Best friend in Las Vegas is a full blown restaurant. But all of them have like very different business structures since this is
Hmm.
a business summit.
Hmm.
So what I look for is fluidity and strength and motion in all of the endeavors that I do. I'm very personally involved in everything that happens. So scale is something that I haven't really figured out as far as globally yet. So because I'm so intimately involved, each relationship has to have a balance for me in time spent and also energy spent. So the
Hmm.
Vegas, where I'm leaning towards, is the Vegas restaurant is a management contract deal, and so we're involved in every aspect of creativity, um, menu development, R&D, quality control, all these things. And I go in and I motivate and work with the team and develop items. But our partner MGM runs it, so it allows. Sometimes in business, you have to make decisions of, are you open to taking a little bit less and having a partner, um, but having less headache? And
Hmm.
because I'm not there every day, I felt like that was the most healthy relationship. So we have the restaurant, which is thriving, and really building that relationship with a partner like that. It takes a lot of strength and humility and open mindedness, and really finding a balance with someone, because as a business owner sometimes you're very personal and you're very um, insular in what you do, and you try to be protective sometimes. But when you have a partner like that on a big scale, you have to find a middle ground where you don't compromise the art or the message, but at the same time you're not micromanaging or in control of everything. We also
Hmm.
have the chef truck over there because that partnership was so great. Um, we opened the chef truck based on the movie and the show. And then I just here in LA, I just opened a new taco stand called Tacos Por Vida, which has been going well. Just bringing it back to the essence, and yeah. So managing those and then doing things like this, reaching out, small entertainment things, working with brands that I admire and enjoy, seeing what I can do with them on different scales, whether that's just through front facing relationships, but also behind the scenes and consulting, things like that.
Hmm. Awesome. Um, I want to talk about Las Vegas, but I love that as an introduction because it's sort of like this is like where all of your small growing businesses have led you is like literally like the biggest stage, a Las Vegas casino.
Oh yeah, I was so
Um,
scared of going to Vegas because it was kind of. I mean, I never thought I'd be a business person. I'm a
hmm.
cook. I'm a cook.
Hmm.
I'm an outcast. I ended up in a kitchen because didn't fit in anywhere else. But you know, the the culture and the existence of food has changed a lot in the last 20, 30 years. So when, getting into this business, none of us as cooks look to be, we didn't even know anything about business. We didn't know anything about entertainment. We just know about cooking and about taking care of people. And but as the industry evolved, well, we evolved with it too. And a lot of chefs are leaders, cooks, chefs. We're party throwers in a sense. Like every night, we have hundreds of people come to our place and have a great time. So we know how to pivot in the moment,
Hmm.
and so yeah, it's been crazy.
So tell me about Tacos Por Vida, because it feels a lot like you've gotten back to your roots. You started with food trucks
Yeah.
over 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so you recently opened now Tacos Por Vida. Can you just give me an overview of that business?
Yeah, going back to what you just said before this, going from the streets and selling tacos when Twitter just started to building a restaurant on the Vegas Strip, which I guess could be a mountaintop. Um, it was a strange path, and to reach those two extremes and everything in between. There's a lot of little nuances that happen in between that and choices that you make. Now going back, and we never left the streets, but going back and opening Tacos Por Vida, I do want to reiterate that we are still an independent small business owner, like a lot of you on here. And when you are that at your core, you know that next week is never promised, and no matter how big things may be going or may have gone, or you may look, from the outside, you still got to pay those bills. You still got to take care of your team. You have payroll every 2 weeks. You have insurance. You have payroll taxes. You have tax. And our business, because we don't scale like, let's say, electronics or technology, tech industry, we can't build like a huge lump sum from the front end. So no matter how successful you are, you still got to grind every day, and especially in the food and beverage business. And so for us, you know, it's been a tough 5 years. We've kept our smile up, and we've kept our team members first in our mind and everything that we do, and the quality that we care about. But there have been days through COVID and then through the actors and writers strike here in Los Angeles, especially a business like us that does a lot of catering. Um, we're looking at like a week away from not having any money in our accounts. You know what I mean? And so, really, Tacos Por Vida was looking at um, our team needed more hours. We they were itching for something new and kept pushing us like, hey, Kogi's still strong, but we need like we need like a new fresh coat of paint. Like we need some new energy. We want to be motivated. We want more hours. We got friends and relatives and cousins that need jobs. And that just hit a really soft spot in me, and I listened. And and then this is what came out, Tacos Por Vida. And a lot of it was crowdsourced as far as within our company. Like, what do you want to do? What do you think is going to make you happy? What's going to hit right now? And everyone just kept talking about, let's bring it back to the essence. And that's why I love my team so much. Like they weren't thinking about like, oh, we need to go globally or go to Dubai, or you need to get venture capital. You're going to need to do all these things, which are fine. But for us, it was like, let's take it back to the essence. Two turntables and a microphone, like
Mm-hmm.
let's go to wood fired, handmade, we touch everything, keep it small, start extremely small. We released it like Beyonce released the Lemonade album. We didn't tell nobody. You just woke up and all of a sudden it existed. And we didn't do any promotion, nothing like that around it. And we just started small, and it has been extremely exhilarating and refreshing for me, and just to see, because like there's a whole new generation of food, especially here on Yelp and with TikTok and with with Reddit and forums and new influencers and content creating culture. In the last 7 years since we opened a restaurant in LA, the whole food industry has changed. We have a whole new population of young voices and young ideas coming into the food space that were never there before. And
Hmm.
so, Kogi was a culture that really galvanized a lot of people in a lot of cities. But in many cases, it's kind of, that whole Twitter culture, the whole follow culture, standing in line, searching things out that are a little bit mysterious. We've lost a little bit of mystery, and time and the patience to wait. Everything's so compressed. We get everything in a split second. We get so much information that I was wondering, like, would anyone still care about this? Like, mystery things, finding out the last second, waiting in line for 2 hours, and just being there and purposely being there. Um, and they loved it, man. They really, really loved it. Like they lost the step. Like, and that just reminds me that we need connection. We're social animals, and so it was all of those things. But we like to start small because it's just one of those things. I think it's part of street food mentality as well. It's just
Hmm.
don't create a huge scene. Whatever the footprint that you have, clean up after yourselves. Move quickly, move swiftly, move quietly, but leave a big mark. And
Hmm.
that's tacos por vida. You know.
I'm glad you brought up the technology thing because when Kogi started, iPhone was still newish. Twitter
Yeah.
was newish. It was like we were very much in this time that was like, look at me, I'm here right now, and I'm willing to be here for a couple hours to like experience this thing that I will also photograph. And with the new opening, you've had a following for over a decade, so it was probably a bit easier. But what shifted in terms of like how people are thinking about like being somewhere and the technology that they're using? Like, what did you do differently? Did you do anything differently in the year 2024, 2023 that you did in 2008 in terms of like strategy for opening or creating that buzz that would be applicable to somebody with a young and growing local business right now?
That's a great question. Weirdly, we didn't do anything differently. Maybe
Okay.
some of the tools that we used are different. Obviously, Instagram didn't exist
Mm-hmm.
when we came out. Hashtags didn't exist. So there are some small fundamental tools that
Mm-hmm.
and new channels that we're using. Um, but as far as the core culture of what we put out there, um, we almost doubled down on what it was. And so we went by going back to the essence. It was trusting that some things are evergreen and
Mm-hmm.
timeless. And so whether that's just playing the piano, or going back and cooking tacos over mesquite and making everything from scratch, and you know and just keeping it like keeping it real, like that, keeping it real sometimes in a world where everything is becoming so fake, actually resonates extremely powerfully. And so
Uh-huh.
that's what we relied on, was just when you strip things down all the way, and when you get back to simplicity, um, if that's the thing that you're really really focusing on, you have to fully commit to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you take the loss. If it's a loss, you take it. But if you fully commit to something, whatever it is, especially in business, if you fully commit to it, um, you know at least there's a chance. And I believe that there's other levels to business beyond just spreadsheets and income statements and the financials and strategy and research and numbers and metrics. There's more than that. There is also, a spiritual, metaphysical, like unseen, intangible power that you have. There are things that you can put out there, you know, that do resonate, that have radio waves of their own power to bring people in. You have to just fully commit to that.
Mhm.
And that's what we did with this taco stand. There was every possibility that this taco stand would have flopped. There's every possibility that us doubling down on a culture that has been passed and leapfrogged with new technology wouldn't be embraced. That, but you know, it I think us as humans, and sometimes you're never going to take away the nerdiness within us. And what I mean by that is waiting in line. It's something you do for yourself, and
Mhm.
when I saw a lot of people coming out in 2024 that were doing the same things in 2008, and that's coming out with a book. Maybe they wanted to catch up on bringing their dogs and hanging out in line for 2 hours, or you know, um, listening to a podcast or music. You know, having the headphones on, meeting up with friends, that you haven't talked to in a while, or a
Mhm.
family, and just being there. And those are all part of the experience. It's not just the taco. It's everything about that. And then so by the time you get there and you eat it, it completes the whole experience. And that's a lot, I think, with business as well. If you again commit, double down, fully engross yourself in the thing that you believe in, others will believe in it too. And it's the idea of really focusing, not just small in your execution, but small in also how you're trying to connect. Because if you connect to your core audience, one person, two people, 20 people, um, and you can really, really create that connection and that bridge with them, and it's unbroken, then that's going to grow on its own, you know. But if you try to get a large audience right off the bat, it's shaky ground. It's a house of cards sometimes,
Mhm.
It's the same thing. You can see the same similarities, and sometimes when you see hotel restaurant menus or hotel room service menus or whatever the case may be, or big budget, kind of middle of the road type restaurants where they try to put everything on the menu because their philosophy is you have to please everyone's palate. Those are usually the biggest failures, whether it's in restaurants or any type of business. If you're too spread out and you're too general, you have to have some specific point of view, um, and have the courage to be able to back that up, and
Mhm.
believe in it. You know.
Yeah. Um, uh, I want to stay on the social media vein that you
Mhm.
mentioned just for a minute, but I'm curious, have you ever changed the way that your food looks because of Instagram or TikTok or social?
Yelp almost made me do it back in
Really?
back in the early days of Yelp.
What happened?
All the Yelpers,
Uh-huh.
complaining. We have so much love on Yelp. I'm kind of in the middle of the road with Yelp. I'm like the 3.5 star king. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like I got a little bit of hate, I got a little bit of love, I got a lot of in between. But in the early days of Kogi, we had again going back to doubling down in courage and having a point of view. We had a point of view of our food, and we had a point of view of our style and our service, and just who we were and our identity. But on Yelp, a lot of people say our food is too saucy. It's too much sauce. Can't taste the meat. They drench it in sauce, and then a lot of times there weren't modifications as well. So, the way we served our food was the way we served it. So because of that, in the early days, and also this whole life change of Kogi was very new for me too. I wasn't an entrepreneur before Kogi. I was working as a chef, and working for so many years as a chef in restaurants and hotels. A lot of times our our nature and how we're trained is to listen and to make adjustments and bend and make the customer happy. And so as I transition to entrepreneur, I'm out living and coming out of that old skin, of who I was, and I'm getting into this new skin of, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, a creative, expressionist. I can do whatever I want to do. Just being able to do whatever you want to do, as long as your heart and your intent is pure, that there is no boss. There is no survey. Like you this is a small business and you can do whatever you want. So I was still learning that, and I was still very fragile in that and fertile. And so I was hearing all these things. I'm like, shh, maybe we should take the sauce out. Maybe we should put the sauces on the side and people dress them themselves. And I almost changed it. I almost got pushed to where I changed it, but there's something within me that was very stubborn, and I kept the line. And that eventually became Kogi. Became our identity, became our fingerprint and our stamp. And so, I'm kind of glad we didn't change, but I did listen.
I mean, so how would you suggest, like, sometimes those sorts of, that kind of feedback, negative, positive, neutral, whatever it is, like my like one-off experience, whatever, like that can like really, as a small business person, like that can like get you like right in the heart, especially
Yeah.
when it's your passion project. So how are you, how like, can you just, you ended up keeping things as it was, and that obviously worked out really well for you, but like what was that process internally, like who
Well,
were you talking to about it? And yeah.
I still go through that process.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to lie to you. It hurts. It hurts every single time. I read every comment. I read every subreddit thread. I read every Yelp review. I read everything. I'm out there and I see it. And it still hurts. Every single one hurts. You know, but then I try to find the truth in all of it all. Did someone really have a bad experience? Did someone really appreciate the technique but didn't like the flavor? Were we wrong? Were we rude? Did we mess up somewhere? Were there circumstances that we can empathize with, that maybe everything was perfect, but something happened in the mathematics of it all that just didn't hit home with that person? And is there anything we can do as a follow-up? And so I try to listen to all, but a lot of it does really hurt still. But you got to take that pain. That's life. That's life. You got to take that pain. That pain, whether it's just emo pain reading a comment, you got to take that pain, and whatever pains there are, financial pains, you could have physical building pains of something happening. But you got to take those pains, because those pains develop and inform the joys and the expression of who you are and how you evolve your business. So I take it all, but it does hurt. The thing I think about, though, a lot of those comments is, because Kogi happened in such a unique way, it became like a social phenomenon, kind of internet phenomenon type thing, that we came out of the gates with some momentum. And so we were able to create inertia, and we were able to sometimes, what's the word I'm looking for, like punch through or block off a lot of those negative situations or comments or whatever. And we were able to hold our ground and figure it out. I think about small, like when I'm using Yelp a lot to look for, let's say, a haircut or a muffler replacement, or a bouquet of flowers, or a knitted bag or anything, very, very micro type businesses that I really love to support. If I see a bad review on those, I know that it could put someone out of business.
Right.
So that's where where it really affects me. I think about it a lot, about like the decorum and what we take with a grain of salt, in these comments, especially for really small businesses starting out.
Yeah. Do you work with influencers?
Yeah, for sure. Like, again, the best part of being an entrepreneur is evolving, with the times, and
Yeah.
I, but also staying connected, but also, again, holding your ground. And so I've I've had a unique situation where a lot of these influencers and youngsters coming up, they look at me as like an OG or like someone that has, you know, laid a small amount of gravel in their path, and so um, they come with a lot of love, and I try to look at everything that they're doing and see if it relates, or there are a few that I've appreciated that we've been able to do some collabs with and pop-ups with, and
Mm-hmm.
it's fun. It's fun. It's like being around like little cousins or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like fun. I love seeing their point of view. I love sharing knowledge when they ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's exciting. I think that not all content creation is there's definitely a lot of cringeworthy content creation. Some of the stuff, the only reservations I have about certain things are just how fast people go from nothing to being a professional pro at it, and
Mm-hmm.
just the steps in between that are missed. Um, you know, some of the labeling of people that haven't earned that label yet is tough sometimes to bear, especially when you deal with crafts and things, uh, craft forms and art forms that take many years of training to do. But man, these content creators just trying to do their thing. So I
Yeah.
got nothing against them. It's really fun to watch sometimes. The copying, just the rate of copying. Sometimes when something does go hit, and then just the amount of things that are the same. Whether it's like the one thing was like just ASMR cooking in the short time span, and how fast it went from just being birthed to like everyone doing it and everyone making a sandwich or scraping a cutting board to
Can you
now like
can you talk about exactly what that is? Just
well,
for
it's
people
just the
who
content
don't know.
creation of just hot young people making sloppy food, and that's really what it is. That's not a
Mm-hmm.
diss. That's not a diss at all. It's just that's what it is. It's just hot young people using ASMR and making kind of the same format food, and and then squishing it, scraping it, chopping it, boom, and then different really sharp cuts, and then you get the finished product within 30 seconds. It's definitely fun entertainment, and it's definitely scroll through entertainment for sure. But you know, just it's come and gone so fast, and now we're it's like it's already almost gone. It's almost like the early days of dancing on TikTok. It's all evolved and changed into something else. And so, um, again, I guess where I'm going with this answer is that I appreciate it. I love it. I love seeing the next generation come up, and you know, but I also love some. I would love if we, as societies, as we grew, that we would not just shun the things that worked for previous societies, definitely shed away the things that didn't work. But
Mm-hmm.
there are still some things that did work, and incorporate those long form storytelling, deeper content, um, more originality, uh, more quirkiness and weirdness, and those things established, you know, into something with new expression, and then you kind of like you take the baton and then you add to it versus completely eradicating the past. But that's my only reservations towards that content
Mm-hmm.
creation.
When you've mentioned that you've done some collabs with content creators,
Mm-hmm.
influencers, like do those move the needle for you? Do you see a result from that?
Metrics wise, I don't know, because like I kind of exist within my own universe, like
Mm-hmm.
the best example I can give that I've given before is that, you know, my whole life, my businesses, Kogi, the restaurants that we have are kind of like a jam band, you know. So we are like Fish or Widespread Panic or Mo or whatever. These jam bands, even going back to the Grateful Dead, that we have our own insular universe and network, and our fan base and people who relate to what we're doing will always be there, and we'll always have this communication bridge with them. And so I don't really know where the needle moves outside of me, because we're always here with them. But what I have noticed in collabing is that I have noticed a lot of new faces coming into the universe. And so that part for me is really exciting. I don't know where it moved the needle business wise or anything like that, but I do know that connecting with a lot of these new content creators and people, not just in food, but in music, in art, in writing, and television making, all these things, what it has done is it's brought their audience in to taste and be a part of what we're doing. It's like bringing it's like bringing like a new teenager into like Rage Against the Machine or something, or like what No Doubt did over at Coachella. What I'm saying? Like it's like letting them see what it's really about, bringing them in, and they come experience it when we were just like not even within their radar. And so that part for sure.
Yeah. I think that like as a business owner and a creative, like that squishy metric of just like noticing a difference, moving the needle is like a measurable business impact. Like you don't have to look at the P&L. Like that is 100%. Like you see it like paying off. Return on investment for that stuff is really hard to measure, and it's squishy. But as someone who's run a successful business for over a decade, like obviously you know it when you know it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And similarly, like we don't know what we don't know. And I'm curious who you look to for help when you need to figure something out, like broadly. You have a big idea, you're not sure.
I'd be calling you, right?
Oh yeah, great. Okay. And who else?
I have partners, I have really great partners within my team. I have very little turnover in my partner executive relationships, and also in my team member relationships throughout my organization. So a lot of, I think, where I get my inspiration and direction is through my team, to be honest. It is just like what happened with Tacos Burrito, and the evidence is there in the most recent endeavor, but also my partners and the people that are closest within my organization. I listen. I try to listen. I try to pose questions. I try to take a strong stance towards certain decisions, and then open it up to the room, so that, because that's how we operate in a kitchen. So what I've tried to do in business, because I wasn't a businessman before, I wasn't trained, or I didn't have a desire to really open businesses, or I didn't even understand what it meant to open businesses. But as I evolved into one, I just took the kitchen mentality and the kitchen culture and applied that to business. And it's worked pretty well. And what I mean by that is, we as cooks and chefs, were problem solvers. We're faced with, hundreds and thousands and sometimes millions of problems every single day and week, whether it's physical, like water's out, grease trap is backed up, gas is down, fryer doesn't work, hoods aren't working, all these things, air conditioners off, to human issues of like 4 cooks didn't show up, all your hosts didn't show up, no bartenders tonight, natural conditions is pouring rain, there's an earthquake, whatever the case may be. So we're always having to deal, and then you have the product, natural disasters, farming things, accident on the freeway, food didn't make it, all these things. And so you're constantly faced with problem solving, also collaboration. You're dealing in the restaurant industry with a very young population in many cases. So you're always getting very fresh ideas and raw ideas. And so, I really listen to my team. Outside of that, biggest mentor has been, I think individually has been probably John Favreau. Him and I have become extremely close friends over the last 10 years. And we find a lot of similarities in each other in how we look at the world and how we create and the type of content we like to create. And because of that synergy, we're able to create things that almost like comic book or anime culture. We're able to create things that people really, really find a connection to and build a love towards and a lifelong love towards. And so, but that's where I get my inspiration for sure.
I think so. I'm looking at the Emmys over your shoulder. With the benefit.
Oh shit, that wasn't on purpose. I swear. Let me.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I am not flexing. I swear.
You should flex. You should flex.
No. That's but just. I found a new spot to do Zooms, and you can see how empty that shelf is. I swear to God, that's not on purpose.
Well, anyway, you should be proud of them. And I'm curious too, like with the benefit of hindsight now, like the big inflection points in your career, maybe including those. Did you know that you were in them when they were happening? Like, did you know like this is a moment that's going to change the trajectory, or was it just like another day of grinding for you?
There are a lot of every days of grinding, but with Kogi, I don't know if you all on here know, intimately the history of Kogi, but I'll just give you a quick cliff note is 2008, economy crashes, mortgage crisis, banks lied to us, everything's crumbling. It's really depressing. But at the same time, technology is emerging, right? Twitter just came out, iPhone had just been out for a year. People are transitioning, moving away from Blackberries and flip phones into instant information. We're moving away from MySpace and Friendster into Twitter. We're starting to do location-based, momentary sharing of information. Flash mobs are happening. Planking, remember planking? I don't know if that's all happening. So all these things are swirling. People are being kicked out of their homes. Homelessness is growing. Poverty is growing. Things are getting very scary. People getting laid off by the thousands and tens of thousands. It was a very scary time. I was one of those. Kogi started because I lost my job, couldn't find another job, going on 3-4 months of no income, getting very, very scary. And then Kogi just bursted out into the universe in a very weird, quirky, Cheech and Chong type way. We just came with this funny looking mystery Scooby-Doo van and started selling tacos, and it changed everything. What was the question again? I led this up, but I haven't answered.
I asked if when you were, looking back, you can see where the inflection was, but yeah.
In the inflection moment. So because all of that happened and because I was put into a very, very unique moment in life, the moment Kogi clicked, it took a few weeks. The first few weeks of Kogi, we were selling mostly at nightclubs. And so a lot of people that ate our food didn't remember what our food was the next day because they were drunk. Our opening hour was 2 a.m. So our service hours were from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. So you can all imagine our crowd at that moment. And who was eating our food. But then the first time we went to UCLA is when we went viral. We went during finals week in December. And that's really when things went viral. And the next morning, our Twitter blew up. Everything started going, the lines going crazy. At that moment, everything changed in my life. Everything shifted, and I had to step into this new role. So in that situation, it was very apparent because it was physical. and it was right in front of you. And maybe some of you are going to experience that, especially with the culture of the way social media is now, and especially with TikTok and things, where things can go viral like literally overnight. You know, I mean, look what happened with Drake and Kendrick in the Chinese restaurant in Toronto. You know what I'm saying? Like things can happen like literally overnight, and so you could go to sleep tonight, maybe doing your bills and being like, man, we're not going to make it to the end of the week, and you wake up tomorrow morning, there's 3,000 people in line, waiting for your mocha matcha mochi bun. I should make one of those mocha matcha mochi bun.
Do it.
And that can happen. So for me, that's what happened. It was physical. It went from serving 4 or 5 people saying, what the hell is this? To like 400, 500 people in line, possessed, looking at you like, I gotta have this. I don't know what it is. I don't care what it is. I gotta have it. And that hasn't stopped for 15 years. I don't know when I'm getting off this ride, but this roller coaster keeps going, man. You know when you get off, when the amusement park is like not busy, and then they go one more time, and you come around on the roller coaster. That's what's happening to me. I can't get off this roller coaster. It's crazy.
That's amazing. We have a minute left, and I have one more question. When we spoke before this interview, you said something that stuck with me. I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up. You said, a little success takes you farther away from what started that success. And I feel like there's some advice in there. Sort of parting words, like what is that advice that you would give once the success comes?
I don't know exactly why I said that to you, but I know what I'm saying there. And you have to take success like you take failure, and like you take hardship and hard times. It can't be the end of whoever it is that you were, and a very dangerous thing, just like all the dualities of life, if you only hear the positive comments and you don't hear the criticism, you may not be able to evolve or grow. In sports, if you're not looking at your weak spots, if you can't go to your left, in basketball, then they're going to figure you out because you're always going to your right. And so I think sometimes all we want is success as a business owner, as an entertainer, as an artist, whatever it is. Sometimes it's like it's so linear. It's like start with nothing, do something everyone loves, become hugely successful. But sometimes success can be detrimental in the fact that you start feeling yourself too early, or you lose touch with what's really going on. You see it sometimes in a lot of entertainment or music, the people that, I just try to always, I use my disgruntled, cynical, angry 17-year-old self as my touchstone on everything I do. It doesn't mean I'm going to act like a 17-year-old, but I use that former part of myself to be like, yo, is this shit, like, you all right with this? You good with this? Does this stuff hit with you? And, am I being an asshole? Like, do I need to bring it down a little bit? And I always use that imaginary person as like my touchstone, because I think if you get too caught up in the success, or you get too full of yourself, your product or your what got you there is going to suffer. That's just my opinion, is that if you lose track, your music going to sound like trash. It's going to be, no one's going to relate to it. It's just going to be processed, just mass produced pop music that just makes you money. It doesn't really, it's not soulful, and I just think that you have to manage your success as you grow, and you have to constantly, and at every stage of your success, you have to constantly look in the mirror and ask yourself, is this good? Oh, am I on the right path? Am I being a little too vain? Am I being a little too self-centered? Have things gotten too far out of whack? You gotta look at yourself in the mirror you know, from time to time, maybe at least once a year. I look at myself in the mirror like every week, every day, you know, like, but at least once a year or every quarter or something, like,
Mhm.
is our morals still in check?
I love that. I think that's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
a little bit over time, but thank you to Yelp for having us. Thank you for all of these awesome insights. It was lovely to chat with you.